How are you? How is everything going?
Yeah, it is great. Thank you so much for reaching
Of
out.
course, of course. So it's okay if I record, is that all right?
Yeah, absolutely. Happy for you to do that.
Perfect. All right.
Yeah.
So could you tell me a little bit about what it is that you do in your work, in your mission? You spent many years dedicating your
Yeah.
career to teen mental health. So please tell us, what is it that you do?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm the program director for the Ryan Bartel Foundation, and we are a youth suicide prevention organization in Loudoun County. And our work really centers around helping middle and high school students focus on resilience, building coping skills, creating connections. And so our programs are really designed to kind of do all of those things. We have programs in the community called the Fort. We also have, we bring that program into schools, primarily middle schools, the Fort at School program. And then we have a number of other programs. There's a leadership program, our Fort Ambassador program, and our 14 Hangout, which is kind of like a support group. So lots of ways that we're engaging young people. I am a psychologist by training, so I am just love this work, and especially love
Yes.
the programs and the training piece. I think it's just so helpful. We
Mm-hmm.
can reach more
Yeah.
teens and families, and that's what the Ryan Bartel Foundation is all about.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's so interesting. I'm so glad that we have finally got this opportunity to
Yeah,
discuss this. I think it's so amazing what you do and how you're helping teens every single day. Um,
for sure.
so, Dr. Lacey, you are the expert of teen mental health, whether it's through establishing
Amazing.
the mental health and resilience group or your role as program director with Ryan Bartel. You've explored so many areas within this field, so many important areas. And at the heart of all this work, it's connection. So today I wanted to explore the topic of teens navigating the digital
Yeah,
world and social
yeah.
media, especially with you being someone who's helped hundreds of teenagers build healthier relationships with the internet. So, without further ado, let's talk about the phone. Now, I've been in these shoes and I've seen this
Yeah,
every single day with my peers that adolescents tend to turn to the internet before they turn to any
yeah.
person, peer, or family member. And I want to dive into what's happening beneath the surface of this behavior. When teens are feeling anxious or overwhelmed or
Yes.
confused and lost, what is it about the internet that makes it feel like the first place to go?
I know. Yeah, it's such a great question, right? And I think it's of course, different for each person. And there's I think the sense
Yeah,
of fear, right? Of fear of judgment, right? If you're going to a parent, a caregiver, another trusted adult, even
yeah,
a
yeah.
friend, right? And I think sometimes that feels safer almost, right? To go and to either look for solutions online or right,
Mhm.
more and more like turning to right AI to kind of get more information. I mean, I think it just there's that fear of judgment, and there's still right shame too about not having it all together, or not being able to just be happy all the time. And there's a lot of pressure on teens these days to do it all, to figure out right how to balance school and social life and all of those pressures that go with it. And so
Of
I
course,
think
yeah.
sometimes rather than being vulnerable, I mean, being vulnerable is hard, right? To really say, I'm struggling with something, or have you ever felt this way, or can you help me? That takes some vulnerability and a lot of trust. And so sometimes I think turning to an electronic device and the internet or AI to have those questions can initially feel safer, right? But are we always getting what we're really looking for, through the those means? So it's a really interesting question. And I think it's hopefully something, right? In our programs, right, we're trying to create more of those in real life moments and connections and actual opportunities to connect with our feelings and to say, yeah, it's okay, right? To feel how you're feeling and to learn healthy ways of being able to cope, right? We're human. We all have tough times that we can go through, and being able to kind of let people in
Yeah.
can also, right, really
Yeah.
help us. So it's a really
Of
good
course,
question.
yeah. No, I agree with you 100%. And I think your perspective on this is really valuable. And honestly, in my perspective, I feel like parents don't always have the time, like, they're not always around to give that connection and to provide that connection to their teens. And because of that, the teens kind of turn to the internet, they turn to social media or whatever, AI, video games to gain that connection.
Yeah,
And then
yeah,
the parent doesn't really know how to deal with this because they didn't grow up with, the internet, the social media, all, these resources. Whereas us, on the other hand, we have everything
really.
at the tip of our fingers. So I bet that creates miscommunication and distance. So, what advice would you give to guardians and parents who are trying to navigate this digital world with their teen in the best way possible and, go through the challenges
Yeah.
together?
No, it's a really good question. And I not only do I work with teens, right, often in our programs, but also do a lot of work with parents and caregivers and educators. And this is like one of the most common topics for training and, for events where I'm connecting with parents. And you're right, there is this kind of disconnect of,
Mm-hmm.
why are teens always on their phones? Well, first of all, it's like, look in the mirror, right? I think so many adults are just using our devices in the same ways,
Mm-hmm.
and I
Yeah.
think there is that kind of right sense of not fully understanding the pros and cons,
Yeah.
right, of using phones, right, for all the things. I think there's a lot of good, right? I talk to a lot of teenagers that are like, this is where I connect, where I get new ideas, new information. It's just like good stress relief when I can just go and
Mm-hmm.
watch a funny video or like learn how to, do a new makeup application, right? There's so much fun, great stuff out there. So I think sometimes adults just like lose sight of that, right? And it's just this blanket, like it's all bad, when in reality, there's a lot of good, right, as well. I think adults are also concerned, rightfully so, about, some of the dangers, that exist, of course, and increased cyberbullying and all of those peer pressure, right, aspects that can be exacerbated over social media. And I think more adults need to put themselves in the shoes of their teenagers, right? And get curious. As I'll say, have you sat down and asked them, what are you watching? What platforms are you on? Like, show me, what do you like about this, right? I think it's just so easy to just say phones are bad. And I think that's just too simplistic, right? There's a lot there. And I think I would encourage, right, more parents, more educators to really get curious about, how young people are using phones and what the benefits are, to then better help them understand if there are any risks, and to just be an open source of information, right? I'm here if you want to talk, if you see something that's concerning, if you're finding something, right, that's upsetting, like, come and talk to me about it. Like, you're not going to get in trouble. I think that's the other piece
Yeah, of
too. So
course.
I'd encourage
Yeah.
some curiosity.
Of course, yeah, that's so interesting. And, this is one of the things that really fascinates me is that what does, the future holds for, young teens and adults navigating the digital world, Like, how safe is it going to be? How dangerous? How can we keep
Yeah,
ourselves safe? There's so many rabbit holes we can
exactly.
fall down,
Yeah, it'll be really interesting. And I think that's, a lot of times I'm always looking at kind of the latest like data and research, and technology is moving so quickly, right? And we're trying to
Mm-hmm.
catch up to really understand, what are the implications. And while we try to understand that, I think it's also important to just have conversations, with young people to say, how are you using this, and is it helpful, is it not, right? What can we all be doing to, we're on the same team. I think that's the
Mm-hmm.
other
Yeah.
piece, right, is like we are on the same team together it is us, right, against some of these tech companies, and right, let's really make sure
Mhm.
that we're understanding kind of what's behind the algorithm, so to speak, or right, some of the design models. So